My name was Ahmed. I was a judge, a guardian of the law, a man who wore the weight of tradition on my shoulders. For 45 years, I navigated the complexities of a justice system intertwined with spiritual beliefs, earning respect in my community for my unwavering dedication. But beneath my stoic exterior lay a chasm of doubt, a disconnect whispering truths I dared not acknowledge. And then, in a heartbeat, everything changed. On the edge of life and death, I found myself in a realm beyond comprehension. It was there, in the shadowy court of my own soul, that I encountered a presence that pierced through my doubts and fears. Jesus, not a figure of myth or token, but a radiant reality who spoke to me of love and freedom, unveiling the chains that had bound my spirit under the guise of religious devotion. In an instant, my world was turned upside down. As I drifted between realms, I glimpsed a spiritual warfare, a silent battle playing out not just within my heart, but across the fabric of society. The very laws I upheld, the traditions I revered, stood in conflict with a deeper truth yearning to be revealed. Jesus illuminated the facade masquerading as faith, showing me the oppressive nature of a system I had believed was divine. What I thought was my calling became my prison. Returning to life felt like stepping into a storm. My community branded me a traitor. My family turned their backs as if I had betrayed the essence of who I was. The decision to share my newfound truth weighed heavy upon me, a flickering flame against the dark reality of potential isolation. Yet the urgency within me grew louder, a call to illuminate the path for others trapped in similar shadows. As I embarked on this secret journey to discover Christ, I faced the relentless pull of fear, yet found solace in whispered prayers. Each moment of connection, each verse of scripture, felt like a lifeline. I was not alone. Through quiet gatherings, I met others who were awakening to the same truth, resonating with the battle against oppressive traditions that claim to hold the keys to enlightenment. Now I stand before you, bearing a message of hope and transformation. This testimony isn't merely about my personal struggle, but a clarion call for all who sit in spiritual darkness. There is freedom beyond the confines of religion, a truth waiting to unveil itself to those who dare to seek. Before we dive deeper, I invite you to share in the comments where you are watching from and what time it is right now where you are. I want to know how this message is reaching across the globe. And if you love Jesus and yearn for more revelations like this one, subscribe to Truth from Beyond, because your journey towards liberation begins now, and the truth is more profound than you can imagine. The vibrant, multicultural city of London has always been a tapestry of diverse beliefs and traditions. As a high court judge, my life revolved around the pursuit of justice, navigating the complexities that arose from the different cultures sharing this space. My name is Ahmed, and I prided myself on upholding fairness within a system that often felt strained under the weight of societal tensions. But as I moved through my daily routine, I couldn't shake the feelings of unease that often flared up, reminding me of the underlying conflicts that simmered just beneath the surface. The air was thick with respect for tradition, yet whispers of prejudice lingered in the corners, a stark reminder of the spiritual war we found ourselves embroiled in. One fateful day, during a particularly contentious case related to an interreligious dispute, I felt a shift within me. It started with a moment of dizziness, then a deeper sense of disconnection from my surroundings. I could feel the voices in the courtroom fade into a murmur, replaced by a thick silence that enveloped my thoughts. In that moment, I fainted, falling into unconsciousness, and everything spun away into darkness. There, in that abyss, I was confronted with a presence that felt both disconcerting and familiar. When I opened my eyes, I stood in a radiant light, and before me was Jesus, inviting me with open arms. "Your journey is far from over, Ahmed." He spoke gently, and my heart swelled with warmth. In his presence, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace that I had never known. He began to reveal truths about the hidden agendas shaping our world, how the elite manipulate faith and use societal division as a tool for control. I watched as images unfolded before me, showing the ripple effects of fear and misunderstanding, the wars fueled by deception, and the devastating consequences of allowing darkness to fester unchecked. Each revelation shook the foundations of my understanding, illuminating the shadows lurking within my own belief system. The urgency of these messages weighed heavily on me. I was experiencing a spiritual awakening unlike anything I ever thought possible. I saw how many individuals, caught in the chaotic web of manipulation, struggled to differentiate between truth and falsehood. My community, plagued by prejudices and conflicts, was a poignant reflection of the battles we face on a global scale. The powerful grip of deception was so deeply entrenched that I felt compelled to take action, to awaken those around me to the reality of their situation and inspire them to rise above the fear that kept them divided. As I returned to consciousness in the courtroom, my life distinctly altered. The implications of my experience coursed through my veins. I realized that I could no longer serve as a passive participant in the struggles my people faced. With Jesus' words echoing in my heart, I prepared to confront the challenges ahead. The weight of my newfound purpose pressed heavily against my chest. I knew the cost of speaking out against a system that had so firmly defined my existence. Would I face rejection from those I cared for? Yet I felt an urgent call to illuminate the truth for others, to help guide them out of the darkness, and to catalyze their own awakenings in the midst of the spiritual war that so many remained oblivious to. The journey ahead would surely be fraught with difficulty, but I was ready to take that step into the light. As I stood in the courtroom, the weight of my responsibilities pressed heavily upon my shoulders. My name is Ahmed, and at 45 years old, I've spent my life building a reputation as a fair and wise judge in London. I've devoted myself to upholding justice, navigating the complexities of law within a multicultural society that thrives on diversity yet is plagued by concealed tensions. On the outside, I maintained an air of strength and confidence, but inside I felt an emptiness growing, a creeping sense of doubt that I could no longer ignore. I began to question the very faith that had been my foundation for so long, wrestling with the expectations placed upon me. During my daily prayers, this emptiness resurfaced, calling my attention with increasing urgency. What was I truly doing? Was my commitment rooted in genuine belief, or merely a response to pressure? The rituals began to feel hollow, and I often found myself staring at the prayer rug, searching for answers. Silence enveloped me, and I felt unmoored, afloat in a sea of questions without resolution. It was as though the very act of prayer, meant to connect me to the divine, had become a reminder of my disconnection. I struggled to present my adherence to tradition while my spirit longed for something deeper. Then it happened. One ordinary night, I fell into a restless sleep and found myself transported into a realm that defied comprehension. I was met by a radiant figure, enveloped in light, Jesus. His presence radiated warmth and love, filling the vastness of the void that had haunted me. Ahmed. He spoke my name with a voice that transcended all doubts, and in that moment my essence aligned with a sense of purpose I had desperately sought. He began to share revelations that shattered my previous understanding of truth and faith. As he spoke, the layers of deception began to unravel. I was shown the hidden agendas that manipulate societies, the elite who intentionally sow discord and division among people of different faiths and backgrounds. The gravity of these insights struck me powerfully. I witnessed the political and spiritual machinations at play, aimed not only at maintaining control, but also at suppressing the awakening of countless souls. The urgency of his message filled the air, urging me to recognize the reality of the spiritual war we are all engaged in, whether we are aware of it or not. When I awoke from that surreal encounter, the brightness of the truth illuminated my heart. But the challenges ahead loomed large. I realized that embracing this awakening came with a cost. I had to confront my fears about the repercussions it would have on my life, my career, and my relationships. Would my family view me as a traitor, Could I remain true to the revelations I received while still respecting the traditions that had shaped my existence? As I grappled with these questions, I also felt a powerful call to share these revelations, to reach out and help others navigate their spiritual battles. The path forward was uncertain, but the light of Jesus had ignited a flame within me, compelling me to take action and stand against the deceptions that plague our world. As I engaged in lengthy prayers, a nagging sense of disconnection began to haunt my heart, creeping in like a shadow that refused to dissipate. My name is Ahmed, and I'm a High Court judge in London, a position that comes with high expectations and a heavy burden of responsibility. For years, I have been devoted to my faith, diligently following the practices instilled in me since childhood. But in those moments of reflection, I found myself questioning the efficacy of my devotion. The rituals that once brought me comfort felt increasingly stale, and the assurance of faith I once held began to flicker like a dimming light. With each repetition of prayer, unsettling visions would stir within me. I'd often close my eyes, hoping for clarity, only to be confronted by a blinding, oppressive light that left me feeling more lost than enlightened. Within that light, a powerful figure began to emerge, shifting between familiarity and an unsettling sense of authority. Dread mingled with awe, and I felt tethered to my seat, caught in an internal struggle of belief. Who was this figure, and why did they hold such power over my spirit? I could sense that the visions were urging me to explore the deeper truths hidden beneath the surface of my faith, exposing the chains that bound me to misunderstanding. As I wrestled with these unsettling thoughts, the internal conflict intensified. The feeling of being torn between devotion to the traditions I had known and the urge to seek a more profound understanding of spirituality left me feeling paralyzed. I could almost hear the whispers of Jesus, compelling me to confront the hidden agendas that often manipulate belief systems. Each vision drew me closer to an awakening I both craved and feared. A revelation about the ways in which society can distort faith for the benefit of the elite. A voice echoed in my mind, insisting that there was more to my existence than the doctrines I followed. Then, one evening, those visions culminated in a transformative experience. While meditating, I was suddenly enveloped in overwhelming warmth and peace, and I felt transported into a different realm. There stood Jesus, illuminated and filled with love that radiated through my very being. "Ahmed," he said, and his voice struck a chord I didn't know existed within me. In that moment, the weight of my doubts melted away, and I felt seen for the first time. He began to share profound truths, revealing the connections between the spiritual war we all face and the very real socio-political manipulations that govern our lives. I saw how fear and division were tools wielded by those who sought power, and my heart ached for the countless individuals ensnared in their web of deception. When I returned to my senses, everything felt different. The heaviness in my heart had lifted, yet the new knowledge left me in a state of urgency. The comfort of routine now felt like a prison, and I realized I could no longer abide by the status quo. My journey was calling me to use the awakening I had experienced for something greater than myself. I wanted to share the revelations given to me by Jesus with others, to help them break free from the limitations imposed by their beliefs and open their eyes to the truth. Yet, the fear of backlash from my family and community loomed large as I prepared to navigate this uncharted territory. My heart raced with both excitement and trepidation, knowing that this path could influence many lives but at the potential cost of my own connections. The struggle was real, but so was the mission ahead, a call to ignite awakenings in others still lost in the darkness. After a taxing day at the courthouse, I felt the weight of the world pressing down on me. My name is Ahmed, and at 45 years old, I have dedicated my life to the pursuit of justice as a High Court judge in London. My days are filled with the expectations of upholding the law and ensuring fairness, but that day was different. As I entered my home that evening, fatigue washed over me like a tide. Little did I know it would become the last normal day of my life. A sudden pain gripped my chest, and before I could comprehend what was happening, I collapsed, slipping into a state of unconsciousness, a coma that would lead me to a profound spiritual awakening. In that state of darkness, I was transported to a surreal space that felt both unsettling and oddly familiar. I stood in a grand, ethereal courtroom, the air thick with a sense of divine purpose. Shadows loomed around me, but they didn't feel intimidating. Instead, they seemed to resonate with the inquisitive souls searching for truth. Then, amidst that ethereal environment, Jesus appeared before me, radiant and loving, filling the room with an energy that was palpable. "Ahmed," he said, and his voice wrapped around me like a warm embrace. In that instant, every doubt I had ever harbored melted away. As Jesus began to speak, I felt my heart open, and the revelations came pouring forth. He spoke of the spiritual war that rages within every individual, challenging us to confront the hidden agendas that so often dictate our lives. Jesus unveiled the deceptive nature of many religious structures, revealing them as instruments of control wielded by the elite. I witnessed visions of how belief systems can oppress rather than uplift, creating barriers that prevent true spiritual connection. These truths struck me with a force that illuminated my spirit, exposing the shackles I hadn't even realized I wore. Throughout this encounter, I felt an overwhelming sense of love and compassion from Jesus. He communicated with me not just words, but a profound understanding of the human condition. I saw how people were often caught in cycles of pain, rooted in misunderstanding, manipulated by fear and ignorance. The emotional and spiritual burdens I had carried for so long began to lift, replaced by a sense of clarity that propelled me toward a newfound purpose. I realized that the truth of my awakening was meant to be shared, a beacon of hope intended to guide others through their own spiritual struggles. When I finally awoke from that coma, the world around me felt stark and different. The bright hospital lights were blinding, yet it was the internal light from my experience with Jesus that remained etched in my heart. I understood that I had been given a gift, a revelation that demanded I take action to share my truth and help others break free from the deceptions that entrapped them. However, the potential fallout from speaking out loomed large in my mind. The thought of disappointing my family and community weighed heavily on my shoulders. Yet in that moment, I understood that what I had experienced was more than just for me. It was a calling to help illuminate the path for those still enshrouded in darkness, ready to step into the awakening I had witnessed firsthand. Upon awakening, I was met with a world that felt both familiar and utterly foreign. My name is Ahmed, and I'm a High Court judge in London, a role that carries immense responsibilities and expectations. After my transformative experience with Jesus during my near-death episode, I emerged with revelations that reshaped my understanding of faith, truth, and the very fabric of society. I was filled with a sense of purpose to share these insights, but as I began to articulate my newfound beliefs, the backlash came swiftly and harshly. My family and community, steeped in tradition, viewed my transformation as a betrayal. They labeled me a traitor, and the pain of their rejection crushed me. I remember standing in front of my family, their eyes filled with disbelief and anger as I tried to explain the awakening I had undergone. I spoke of Jesus and the truths he had revealed to me, how deception was woven into the very religion I had dedicated my life to preaching. I explained the hidden agendas behind the elite, the manipulation of belief systems designed to keep us divided and subservient. Instead of understanding, I found only judgment. Their words were like daggers, piercing through the gentle facade of love we'd built over the years. "How could you?" they demanded, their voices heavy with disappointment. Each word echoed in my mind, amplifying the chasm that opened between us. The emotional turmoil I faced was immense. The very people who had been my support system now felt like strangers. I knew deep down that my experience with Jesus was a divine calling, a revelation meant not only for me but for all those still asleep to the truth. Yet, the fear of crossing my loved ones, of losing familial bonds that had shaped my identity, left me feeling isolated and alone. I grappled with my love for them and my commitment to this new path. The tension was palpable as I struggled to reconcile the essence of my past life with the urgent mission I felt compelled to pursue. As I immersed myself further in this awakening, I sought out others who had shared similar experiences. I discovered a community of fellow seekers, and as I sat among them, I felt the first glimmers of hope. Here we openly discussed the spiritual war raging around us, the manipulation of belief systems, and the need for a collective awakening. We shared our stories, forming connections that transcended the labels society had placed on us. Yet even in this newfound circle of support, the struggle for acceptance lingered in the back of my mind. Would my family ever understand my journey? Would they ever accept the truth I had uncovered? As I committed myself to my mission, I felt a growing sense of urgency to reach others still trapped in the darkness I once inhabited. I knew that I had a responsibility to guide those who felt lost, to help them navigate their spiritual journeys away from deception and toward divine truth. The memories of my family's rejection haunted me, but the light of Jesus continued to shine in my heart, reminding me of the importance of love and compassion even in the face of conflict. My resolve strengthened with each passing day. I understood that this path would test me further, pushing me to confront fears I had worked to suppress, but I was prepared. I would stand firm, armed with the truth I had received, ready to awaken hearts and challenge the narratives that had kept so many in chains. In secret, I embarked on a quest for truth that would challenge everything I thought I knew about faith and my place in the world. My name is Ahmed, and for years I have served as a high court judge in London, navigating a complex landscape of legal and moral responsibilities. Beneath my calm exterior, however, a spiritual war raged within me. I had been forever changed by the revelations I encountered during my near-death experience, and the urge to seek deeper understanding began to consume me. With each passing day, the emptiness I felt in my soul only deepened, pushing me to explore the teachings of Jesus which had long felt taboo. Under the cover of darkness, I began to delve into the Bible. I would search for verses and passages that resonated with my questions, finding a language that seemed to speak directly to my heart. The more I read, the more I felt light illuminating the very corners of my spirit that had been shrouded in doubt. In addition to reading, I sought out Christian testimonies online, listening to stories of transformation and awakening that mirrored my own feelings. Each testimony felt like a lifeline, affirming that I was not alone in my search for truth. Connecting with a small group of Christians who understood my journey brought me solace, but it also heightened my fear of being discovered. I knew that if my community learned about my explorations, I would be seen as a heretic, an outcast. We gathered in hushed tones, sharing our experiences, discussing the impact of the elite and their hidden agendas that seek to manipulate faith for power. Together we navigated the complexities of our convictions, shedding light on the spiritual war that many remain unaware of. Yet, even in these moments of connection, the worry of losing everything I held dear lingered incessantly, casting a shadow over my newfound happiness. Over time, the revelations I encountered became increasingly urgent. As I reflected on the hidden agendas controlling the narratives we live by, I realized how deeply they affected society. The manipulation I witnessed sparked a fire within me to act, to awaken others to the deception that kept them trapped in fear and division. I began feeling an overwhelming responsibility to be a voice that speaks truth to power, to challenge the status quo and confront the darkness with the light I had found. Yet the fear of stepping away from the traditions that had defined my life clashed with this newfound purpose, creating a tension that often left me in turmoil. As I moved further down this path, the weight of my dual existence became apparent. Balancing my public life as a respected judge with my secret explorations felt increasingly precarious. The urge to speak out grew stronger, compelling me to share my experiences and what I had learned from Jesus. I understood that true awakening required courage, a willingness to stand against the very structures that had once bound me. Though the fear of rejection from my family and community loomed over me like a storm cloud, I knew I had a critical role to play in this spiritual war, and it was a role that I could no longer ignore. My journey toward truth and awakening was only just beginning, and the stakes were higher than I could have ever imagined. Recognizing my experience as a divine calling felt like a thunderclap, a moment of clarity that shattered the fog of doubt that had lingered for so long. My name is Ahmed, and for years I served as a high court judge in London. I had dedicated my life to justice and truth, but found myself increasingly troubled by the injustices I witnessed. It was during a particularly intense period of reflection, after a series of troubling cases, that I encountered Jesus in a profound moment of grace following a near-death experience. That encounter changed everything and set me on a path I had never anticipated. As I engaged with my newfound revelation, the realization that I had a mission began to unfold within me. I felt compelled to confront the injustices surrounding me, to challenge the hidden agendas that perpetuate division and deception. The spiritual war that I had once viewed as an abstract concept now became palpable. Every interaction, every case I presided over, became imbued with significance. Jesus' message resonated deeply. The truth must be shared, and ignorance should no longer mask the reality of the manipulation at play within our society. While I grappled with the fear of backlash from those who might call me a traitor, my drive to educate others about the spiritual warfare we all experience pushed me to act. I sought knowledge wherever I could find it, absorbing teachings from various sources while carefully navigating the delicate landscape of my faith. The more I learned, the more questions arose. I began to see the connections between global conflicts and the power dynamics employed by the elite, who thrive on the ongoing chaos. My heart burned with urgency as I realized the need to break the cycle of deception, to awaken those trapped in dogma and fear. In secret meetings with a small group of like-minded individuals, we explored these themes together, sharing our journeys and supporting one another through the tides of spiritual awakening. Conversations flowed about how many people remain blinded by false narratives, manipulated by the elite for their gain. I felt an uninhibited passion emerge within me as I articulated the truths I had come to see, feeling the weight of responsibility for those still lost in darkness. Sharing what I had experienced became a powerful act of love, driven by the desire to lift the veil of ignorance around us and illuminate the path toward genuine understanding. Yet even in these gatherings, I felt the weight of my past life lingering in the background, a reminder of all I had left behind. The fear of losing my family and community was ever present, creating an inner turmoil that couldn't be ignored. I cherished the connections I had forged, but a part of me wondered if I would ever truly belong again. The journey ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but my conviction grew stronger with each passing day. I was determined to stand firm in the truth I had received, ready to confront the challenges and begin educating others about the awakening that awaited them, a journey toward freedom from the spiritual war that enfolded us all. Making the decision to forsake my old life was the most daunting moment of my existence. My name is Ahmed, and for years I have served as a high court judge in London. The respect I garnered from my colleagues and the weight of my position were comforts I had come to rely on. But after my near-death experience, during which I encountered Jesus and received profound revelations, everything changed. The truths I uncovered compelled me to abandon the familiar comforts of my life and embrace a new identity, one that would lead me down an evangelical path, sharing my transformative experience and the light that Jesus had imparted to me. Once I stepped away from the life I had known, there was an exhilarating sense of freedom mingled with overwhelming fear. The awakening I experienced illuminated the hidden agendas that often govern our lives, showing me how deeply society can be manipulated by the elite, who thrive on deception and sow discord among communities. I felt a responsibility to share these insights, to help others navigate through the murky waters of misinformation and division. Each interaction with those who sought help bolstered my determination, compelling me to speak out about the spiritual war that silently envelops us. In my new community, I served as a beacon of hope for individuals wrestling with similar conflicts. I joined forces with others who had also experienced their own awakenings, creating a network of support that transcended traditional boundaries. We shared our stories, and with each testimony, the truth pulsated stronger than the fear of rejection I felt from my family and past community. I often reflected on the ties I had severed. The longing for acceptance was a constant struggle, yet the clarity I gained through my revelations filled me with purpose. I knew that to turn back would negate the light that had been bestowed upon me by Jesus. As I began to stand firm in my new identity, it became evident that my journey was about more than personal growth. The stories I shared were powerful enough to spark change, to open the eyes and hearts of those trapped in the darkness of ignorance. I spoke passionately about love, forgiveness, and the urgent need to awaken to the truth of our existence. The spiritual war we face is not just a struggle for the individual, but a collective call to awaken communities to the lies that divide us. Each conversation served as an opportunity to dismantle the deception and create pathways for healing. However, each step toward sharing my message came with its own set of challenges. The fear of stepping into the light of truth became intertwined with the sorrow of leaving behind my old connections. I understood that the path I chose might lead to further alienation from my family. Yet in my heart, I felt a profound sense of divine support pushing me forward. As I continued to testify to the truths Jesus had revealed, I knew that despite the personal risks, I was part of something far greater. My mission to educate others about their spiritual battles became clearer with each passing day, and I prepared to face whatever came next in this unpredictable journey of awakening. In the aftermath of my experiences, I found myself standing at the crossroads of suffering and liberation. My name is Ahmed, and I've spent a significant part of my life serving as a high court judge in London, an esteemed role that came with respect but also immense emotional weight. The pressures of my position had often made me feel trapped within the rigid frameworks of tradition, though it was a place I once found comfort in. But after encountering Jesus during a near-death experience, I began to understand that true liberation lies in the truth revealed to me in that divine moment. The journey I embarked on after my awakening became a path filled with struggles, both internal and external. I faced fierce opposition from my family and community, who viewed my spiritual transformation as a betrayal. Their voices echoed in my mind, each word a reminder of the cultural expectations that weighed so heavily upon me. Yet, despite this suffering, I sensed that I had a purpose, a calling to speak truth into the spiritual war that envelops us all. The revelation of deception within the structures I had once revered became my driving force. Each moment spent in prayer or reflection compelled me to confront the hard realities of manipulation that our society faced. As I began to share my experiences, I found that I was not alone. I attracted others who, like me, sought freedom from the constraints imposed by traditional beliefs. Together, we formed a community rooted in love, understanding, and the pursuit of truth. With each story shared, I recognized how many individuals were still caught in the throes of ignorance and fear, unaware of the hidden agendas at play orchestrated by the elite. The urgency of our mission rested on our shoulders, compelling us to awaken those still trapped in spiritual shadows. In sharing my journey, I felt a transformation within myself, and not just spiritually. I became a symbol of courage for those around me, a beacon of hope reflecting the possibility of breaking free from the chains of expectation. However, the challenges I faced were daunting. The fear of rejection from my family still burned bright, instilling a sense of doubt that would sometimes creep in when I felt most vulnerable. But with every soul I reached, I felt my resolve strengthen, bolstered by the truth I wielded against the backdrop of manipulation and control. My commitment to this awakening was no longer just about me. It was about every individual who felt powerless against the tides of deception. Jesus had revealed to me the urgency of this spiritual war, and I was determined to stand firm in the fight for truth. Despite the emotional strain and the sacrifices I had made, I moved forward, ready to face whatever came next. My mission was clear: to bring others out of the shadows, to illuminate the path toward genuine spiritual freedom, and to inspire countless lives longing for hope and meaning in a world so often obscured by darkness. The journey was fraught with tension, but in embracing this calling, I discovered a depth of purpose that compelled me to continue, ready to transform suffering into true liberation. Years later, I find myself devoted to a mission that feels divinely ordained, fostering a community of faith for those who silently wrestle with their beliefs. My name is Ahmed, a High Court judge in London, and the journey I undertook after my encounter with Jesus has reshaped my entire existence. The empty chasm I once felt within has filled with purpose. When I awoke from my coma after that fateful experience, I understood clearly that my life could no longer be defined by fear or the expectations of others. I was determined to shed light on the truths I had uncovered, even as I longed for reconciliation with my former family. Each day, I meet individuals who are struggling to find their own paths amid the complexities of faith. They come to me grappling with the dissonance between tradition and their personal beliefs, and I feel a deep connection with their struggles. It's during these gatherings that I share my testimony, the revelations Jesus imparted to me about the hidden agendas that manipulate our realities. I explain how the spiritual war within us is mirrored in the larger context of society, where deception reigns and the truth often lies buried beneath layers of fear and misunderstanding. While I find fulfillment in this mission, the shadow of my past continues to loom over me. I grapple with the hope of reconciling with my family, realizing they still reside within the confines of traditional beliefs that can sometimes feel oppressive. My heart aches for their acceptance, yet I also know that my journey has placed me on a path divergent from theirs. I feel a profound sense of responsibility to share the love and truth I've discovered, knowing that the very essence of my testimony can inspire change and awaken others trapped in deception. As I navigate this dual existence, I realize that love and truth can coexist, even within the confines of strained relationships. The potential for reconciliation with my family remains a bittersweet thread running through my life. I often reflect on the conversations we might have, where I could articulate the beauty of the revelations I've received, allowing them to see the light rather than fear the shadows. Each interaction I have with anyone seeking hope reminds me that the truth has the power to heal. It can mend the divisions that separate us and unify hearts. In this spiritual war, I am committed to being a beacon for others, an embodiment of faith that transcends societal expectations. The urgency of my mission presses upon me as I witness the impact of our conversations, how awakening grows in the hearts of those who are willing to listen. I know the road ahead may be challenging, littered with obstacles and uncertainties, but my determination to embrace my purpose bolsters my courage. I am ready to face whatever comes, trusting that the truths I share, those revealed to me by Jesus, will not only illuminate my path, but will also guide others toward their own awakening, creating a collective movement toward liberation and love. Now that you've journeyed with me through the depths of my experience, I urge you to reflect. Have you ever felt that pull, an inkling that there is something profound unfolding beyond the surface of everyday life? Like us, you may sense that we are ensnared in a spiritual war, stitched together by threads of deception woven by forces that seek to maintain control. This awakening is not just mine, it belongs to all of us. As a judge in London, I stood at the intersection of law and faith, yet I realized that my truest calling emerged from the divine truths unveiled to me by Jesus. The shackles of tradition that once bound my heart and mind were replaced with an urgent call to freedom. Freedom for myself and for those still lost in the shadows. This journey, one of awakening, challenges each of us to confront our own cages and to seek out the radiant truth that shines beyond the veil of religious dogma. I want to hear from you. What are the awakenings, the moments of clarity, that have reshaped your understanding of the world? Share your experiences in the comments below. I truly believe that each of our stories holds power. You see, our collective voices create ripples, amplifying the truth and igniting sparks of hope for others still searching. If this message resonates with you, make sure to subscribe to Truth from Beyond and activate the notification bell. It's essential that we build a community committed to seeking and sharing the truth, for what lies ahead is a deeper exploration of these revelations that awaits us. Join me in the next video, where I'll delve into the transformative experiences of others who have encountered Jesus and emerged forever changed. It's time to embark on this journey together, unraveling the illusions, embracing the light, and awakening to the truth that can set us all free. I'm Ahmed. Thank you for being part of this profound conversation. Embrace the light, and remember, the truth is waiting to be discovered by those who seek it.